Hello, this is Jim Armstrong, Sales Engineer with McAfee. In this product demonstration, we're going to take a look at McAfee's device control product and learn how it can be used to control the physical access to the devices, as well as to monitor the types of data and control the types of data that are being copied to USB and other types of removable storage in your enterprise. The first thing to note about McAfee device control is that it's controlled and managed through McAfee's ePolicy Orchestrator console. If you're familiar with ePolicy Orchestrator, then you're familiar with the interface that we'll use. If you're not familiar with it, then you should know that McAfee's ePolicy Orchestrator is used to control just about all of our endpoint protection products, whether it's virus scan or host IPS, our encryption products, or as we'll see today, our host DLP and device control products as well. Within this particular DLP Policy Manager screen, you'll notice that we have a number of things and rules that we can set. Most of these apply to the full host data loss prevention product, and there are other videos that will cover those rules and classification schemes in more depth. But what we're going to focus on in this particular demonstration is the rules and definitions that apply to devices and what you can do with those in your environment. So the first thing to notice is that the device management is really controlled through one section of this interface. Towards the bottom left of the screen, there's a device management section, and you'll notice we can set device rules, look at device classes and definitions, as well as do some application control on our devices. To kind of give you an overview of what device control can actually do on your system, we'll take a look at the device classes. Typically, this isn't a section that you would really mess with too much in your management. However, you'll note that there's a number of devices that we can pre-configure and pre-control right out of the box with the McAfee device control product. You'll notice that USB devices are here, Bluetooth devices, CDs, DVDs, floppy disk drives, if you have any of those, Bluetooth devices. All of those are built right in and ready to be managed out of the box. In fact, if we scroll down a little bit here, we have a section for unmanageable devices, and you'll notice that there's a very small number of those. These are all internal devices, and if you set any device control rules on these, you would eventually cause some serious harm to your system, and so we don't allow you to control these, but these are the only devices that we don't allow you to control. So really, McAfee device control could be used to control just about anything plugged into your PCs. We're going to focus in this demonstration on removable storage devices, since that's the biggest problem and the biggest concern facing most customers today. You'll notice two other important sections here on the left that we'll use to actually set up our scenarios. So device rules and device definitions. Device definitions allow us to tell our device control product what to look for. In other words, what are the physical types of devices that I want you to monitor when they get plugged into PCs. And then device rules tell us what to do when we notice those devices. So the things that we define in device definitions that we tell device control to look for will then set some rules for the actual policy in terms of what should happen. So let's look at how to control and set up a device definition. One popular scenario when using device control that customers want to use kind of out of the box is the ability to monitor all USB devices. In many scenarios, people don't have any idea really what's getting plugged in, what types of devices are being used, who's using those removable storage devices the most often. And so what people want to be able to do is just set up a simple monitoring rule so they can start to get an idea of the scope and breadth of the problem that they're facing with removable storage devices. So that's what we'll do here in this first scenario. I'm going to come to my device definitions screen, and I'm going to right-click and add a new removable storage device definition. This one's going to be very simple. I'm going to give it a name for all USB removable storage. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit this particular definition. You'll notice here when we define device storage rules, we can set a number of different parameters to identify a device. We can be very generic, as we're going to be in this particular rule, where we just tell it to look for all USB devices. Or we can get extremely specific and get all the way down to a device serial number if we want to do that as well. In reality, what we're going to end up doing in the next scenario is looking at vendor ID and product IDs to kind of identify a broad class of devices that we want to allow or block. For instance, you could think about iPods. We could block all iPods using a simple combination of vendor ID and product ID. But in this first scenario, we're going to just look at all USB removable storage devices. So I'll click OK, and that creates our definition. Very simple to do. again, as far as the definition goes. And then we want to actually create a rule based off of that definition. So I come up to my device rules section here. Again, I'm going to right click over here and add a new removable storage device rule. A couple of other things to note here. We also have plug and play device rules. The difference between the two being removable storage device rules only affect those devices that have a file system on them, whereas plug and play device rules could really affect any device plugged into a machine. So if for some reason you wanted to block keyboards or printers or other types of devices such as those, you could use a plug and play device rule. We're going to focus on the removable storage device rule here. One other category that you'll notice is removable storage file access rules. The main use for this is to prevent executables from launching from your USB devices that get plugged in. Again, it's an important piece of malware protection because a lot of malware today will like to infect USB sticks and automatically launch when they get plugged into systems. And so this gives you the protection for that. We also have the controls to allow certain applications to run from those devices if we want to. So for instance, if you have a launcher program of some sort or a security program that launches from those USB sticks, you can certainly allow those. In this particular scenario, we're going to focus on our device rule itself for removable storage. So I'll select that. Again, I'm going to give it a name for all. I want to watch all USB storage. And this is going to be a very simple monitoring rule. So again, I have this device definition that I created in the previous step to match against all USB removable storage, and I'm going to include that definition in here. You'll notice as well that there are a couple of other definitions that are built into the product. So we, as a company, sell devices that have encryption built into them, and we've created device definitions out of the box for those. We also have the ability to look at content encrypted by our file and folder encryption software and identify that through our device definition rules as well. But again, we're going to focus on the device definition that we created that's very broad to monitor all USB storage devices. In this case, I'm going to monitor those devices. What that does is generates the alerts and information back in my EPO console so that I can create reports and tell who's using devices and what types of devices are being used. In this case, I want to notify the user as well. This may help to shape user behavior. If they know that the devices that they plugged in are being tracked, oftentimes that's enough to sort of shape their behavior. But it will also pop up a little notification screen on my client when I plug in a USB device so that we can actually see that it is in fact working. You'll notice there are some other actions here as well. I could block, I can make a device read-only, and I can really select these in any combination that I want to. So I'll hit next, and you notice the final step here allows me to apply this rule selectively to user groups. So if I hit the add button here, I can create a new user assignment groups. I can add local users, which would look for any non-domain users that might log into a machine. I can also add groups and individual users from my Active Directory if I want to. So if I wanted this rule to apply to everyone, I could simply do that, type that into the box, search for it, and select everyone here. I could get more specific if I want to, maybe get down to a sales group. And choose that, or I could also do individual users. But this allows me to selectively apply these rules to users or groups within my environment. So we back out of here. I'm going to choose to apply this to everyone plus all local users. So anybody that connects to my machine is going to have this rule applied to them. And I'll click Finish, and then I'm going to enable that particular device rule. I'm going to now apply those rules to my EPO database so that the policy is now stored in EPO and ready to be rolled out to my clients. And once that's done, I'm going to come back to my EPO system tree here. And on the client machine that I'm actually using, I'm going to send a wake-up call so that I can get that policy applied immediately. This is the client machine that I have. So I'll send a wake-up call to my client machine so that that policy will apply immediately. Then what I'm going to do is I will minimize my EPO screen here, and I'm going to plug in a generic USB stick. So all this should really do at this point, based off of those rules, is pop up a notification screen to tell me that a device has been plugged in and that it's being monitored. And that will appear in the bottom right corner of my screen as you see here. This is all an end user sees when you have that notification turned on. Device was monitored and the name of the device that's being used here. And then my screen goes away within a few seconds.